Welcome to Fouts Boxing Theory. In this video, we're going to be taking a detailed analysis of Lomachenko and his first four fights, or rather, not his first, but his second, third, fourth, and fifth fight. We're going to be taking a look at some highlights. We're going to be taking a look at the all-time great skills and flaws from a kind of top-down approach. We've seen everything that he's done, everything that he's going to do. We're going to take a look at all the flaws, see which ones he fixed. We're going to also do a little bit of we fight, how we train. And if you guys want to watch the full fight film studies, check them out on the Patreon or on the Discord. The full fight film studies are going to be on there. We're just going to be taking a look at some highlights, talking about some things, and then going over the we fight, how we train in his mitts, heavy bag, and shadow boxing routines. But the first thing I want to point out here, a little bit of head movement, and this is very, very, very important for the overall structure of Lomachenko. When he moved to that position, he didn't really do anything with it. Okay, he has this little bit of thing, and this is going to be a very, very, very important part when we talk about the overall structure of Lomachenko's fight strategy, his training, the way that he trains, and the things that he's accomplishing, and how he fights, and the differences and all that stuff. But a few things we want to take a look at here. A little bit of head movement there, crossing the line, but it doesn't line up with anything that he's doing in the fight. Okay. He is not probing off of it. He could have left with the right hook. He could have lead into the position with a left hand, either a straight left or an overhand left. But he kind of moved into this position, and then it wound up telling Salido he could kind of punch because Lomachenko's checking the line there a little bit to see if he can get to that position, but not to see if it's safe to punch, because Lomachenko has a little pet move where he's going to get to that position and pivot around and then try to take a shot later. And we're going to talk a lot about that later when he trains that, all that stuff. Again, we fight, how we train. But trying to block and interact with this punch, there's a huge hole right here. Okay, it's very, very, very important when he blocks, and we're going to talk about that hole that winds up being there in this position, but he winds up getting caught. But also I want to talk about dichotomously. Okay, when we see Salido checking the line with his own rear hand. Oh, did anything get me? Or his own crossing of the line there with his head. Now he gets on the line here, and he's going to throw this big wide shot to kind of get control of Lomachenko. It's very, very, very important when we take a look at these clips here. Okay, I want you guys to remember this move from Salido. Okay, but we're going to move on. I want you guys to think about this clip, though. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and move on to the next clip here. And we're going to get to 234-ish. Okay, again, crossing the line here, crossing the line. Again, he's not really doing anything with it. He made it across the line. He didn't attack with the rear hand here, right? Now, when Salido crossed the line, he came with the left hand right there. Sometimes he's going to score. In that one, he did score. Sometimes he's not. Lomachenko makes it to that position, and he never scores. Again, making it to that position 3 times in a row, and then telling Salido, oh, okay, it's okay to just open up with this shot. Now, this is a massive source of offense for Orlando Salido, and one of the biggest reasons why he was able to sustain such a massive, figment of winning, right? It looked like he was doing so much better, even though a lot of the shots are not landing clean, this and that. Lomachenko does so much work here. He's crossing the line, he's getting into the position, but he's not letting his hands go. Okay, and we're going to talk about that again, why that is a little bit later. Nice little 1-1-2 here, landing a good shot here. Not bad. Okay, not bad. But we really want to talk about, why he winds up being such an incredible athlete. Again, no value out of that move at all. Again, a common pattern. Now, very, very interesting. He's going to get on the line here, feint him, right? And he gets on the line. Lomachenko is going to feint him again. Boom, right? And now again, he's going to step here, and what's his name? Salido thinks it's opportunity for him to get a free punch here, time Lomachenko coming in, and then he winds up making him pay after dragging him in. Now, another very, very, very important thing here, Lomachenko has this big problem in his striking as well. A lot of people do. Floyd Mayweather had it as well, but he's going to throw the 1, coming back, chasing him back, throws the 2, and he throws the 3 here, this hook here. He's not really throwing it like a hook, right? He's very good at the straight punches, but Lomachenko doesn't usually move his head when he punches. Now, we're not going to watch too much of it. I'm not a big fan of the tool, but he uses that rival tennis ball thing that attaches to your head. You can't move your head at all when you're punching. So it teaches you some backwards mechanics, some really bad things. But Lomachenko's not moving his head, so there are a lot of mechanics of the hook that he can't learn. And he winds up kind of hitting him with his wrist. Okay, Lomachenko's not really throwing a very good left hook here. This is very, very, very important as we analyze and take a look at the structure of his entire career, the things that he was good at and the things that he was not good at. Now, opening up with the lead hand here and kind of leaving that position, okay? We want to pay attention to that because that's a very, very high level craft move. And it's not one that he uses all the time, getting to that position and really getting value. Now, thought this was really interesting here. He's going to get bullied here by Salido, pushed off the line. He gets feinted here, and he's going to rhythm step. Brings his feet together here. Now, take a look when he takes a step onto the line here. He didn't take it any closer to Salido, right? He manages his distance really, really, really well. Takes a step wide. Salido's trying to cut the ring off here, but Lomachenko makes a really, really, really pivotal error. Okay, this move here is really, really bad. You really don't want to be pivoting on here on the front foot, but luckily it takes a wide enough step out here. But I just want you to take a look at this move, the way that he made this pivot. This is an all-time great mistake. We're going to see him eat some punches later in his career. And again, remember, there's no looking at his career now and saying, well, if he fought a real dude, he wouldn't do it like that. You know, he wouldn't do it like that if everything was on the line, right? That kind of hand me down like little excuse bullshit that people give fighters. Right, but again, circling here, a little stepping jab. Poke, poke, poke. He can't fight going backwards. Okay, now this is also very interesting too because Lomachenko, when he's on the mitts, and again, when we fight how we train, we're going to see, right? He's not always throwing real punches at the mitts. He's not always throwing his little tap stuff, and that's exactly what he's doing to Orlando Salido. Okay, now again, when we get to the end of the film setting, we talk about all that stuff. Again, he doesn't fight going backwards. He's not really a counter puncher. He doesn't always do all the right things. And these are some of the biggest flaws. This flaw here is one of the biggest ones that he had in his whole career, was his ability. Just like when Gennady Golovkin, you know, I was one of those guys. I was like, there's no way Canelo beats Gennady Golovkin. Hell no. Right? But he did. He wound up beating him. Now, all-time great skill, fighting on the inside, one guy trying to hold the other guy. Lomachenko finds a shot on the inside. This is one of those things you look for in a guy's career, right? Salido looks like he's trying to grab, hits him low right there. Holding on the inside, right? Who's holding who? But when he wants to find offense here, now, the referee's kind of pulling him apart. Happens sometimes. It's going to happen to Loma later as well. But just like Ryan Garcia, right? When Ryan Garcia, someone tries to hold Ryan Garcia, he's able to rip that left hand, those right hands. It's very difficult to be close to a real striker, okay? And how somebody combats being held and grabbed is extremely, extremely important in the overall development of their career, because you don't want to wind up just fighting and losing to someone who's bigger than you, right? Classic tall man strategy is just somebody being really tall, really big, right? And then they just stick and move, and then as soon as you get close to them, they grab you and tie you up, right? They're throwing punches while you're out of range, and then as soon as you get in range, they're just holding. Now, pushing Loma off the line, again, we see Salido there opening up with a rear hand as he crosses the line, something that was just not in Lomachenko's arsenal, right? Again, pivoting on the front foot here, Lomachenko, again, wind up getting caught here, again, right around the guard. Again, we want to pay attention to his defense. Is this a good block, you guys? I know his hand is up by his head when the guy throws the shot, but we see this big hole right here. Lomachenko barely avoids being hit off of this very random punch, right? It may even get him, right? It may even get him a little bit, okay? But then he's going to do that thing where he makes it to the front foot and he tries to pivot on the front foot here, and he's definitely getting hit here, costing him a punch, again, in a fight that changed his whole career. Right? If he would have won this fight, his whole career would have been different. I mean, kind of. You know, he's still like pretty GOAT, you know, all that stuff. Now, again, we've got Loma circling, stepping around a little bit, slipping to the front foot, working off of his opponent's jab here, timing that rear hand, slipping to the front foot. Now, Loma doesn't fight out of this position. Okay, this is a major, major problem for Lomachenko overall. And as we go over these clips, we have a lot of clips to go over, by the way, a lot of clips. We have 4 fights worth of clips to go over, and then we fight how we train. Again, we're going to honor Lomachenko the way he deserves to be remembered, a complete retrospective of his career for these fights. We're going to go over a lot of information, a lot of stuff. And if you want to check out the full fights, check them out on Discord. But He doesn't fight out of this position once he gets to the front foot, but I just wanted to point out that little move there. Good timing. 117, 112. Timing him again. Now, Lomachenko, not a lot of head movement here. Okay, again, one of those big problems. Ooh, bad block. And now this move here, a little bit of a fake move here. We're going to call that one out a little bit later when we see him get hit in a few other sequences, but a little bit of highlights, a little bit of, oops, here we go. All right, now again, Orlando Salido, again, this very, very, very bad block here. Again, just entering the line with that rear hand, and I want you guys to pay attention to how effective this move looks against Lomachenko. Imagine how effective this move would be if somebody who was like a really good fighter, maybe somebody who was like really fast, maybe somebody who had already has some head movement, somebody like Lomachenko could do that, right? But again, he's giving up so much space and just allowing this guy to throw punches at him with his fake defense, fake spinning stuff. Does look like he steals a couple punches here, but mostly like fake stuff there, okay? Stepping around, again, a little fake move here. Okay, he does land a good shot here, but we're going to see later on in the film study where these moves, they don't line up very well. They don't wind up generating the offense. But I want to point out how weird it is, right, that he has to get these angles, right? He's going to get all the way over here before he starts throwing his punches. And the interesting thing, as we take a look, he takes so long to warm up. And there's not like really a great reason why he spends so much time sitting in front of guys. Again, at the beginning of this round, he's going to let Orlando Salido get on the line, just start winging overhand shots and chase him down, right? And again, it looks bad. Orlando Salido is like wildly out of position. They're not like great punches, so there's a lot of opportunity to counter him. Decent shot right there. Now, I want to point out, again, Lomachenko, not really a right hook kind of fighter. Again, in these positions, especially where his opponent is coming to him, right? Orlando Salido's primed to be getting hit by a right hook. But instead of going for a right hook, he goes for this weird pull back, stepping jab kind of thing. Okay, now this is going to be really important when we take a look at his mitt work and stuff. Again, it's going to be this weird pulling back and stepping jab kind of thing off the back of that move. Very, very, very bad for dealing damage, making a guy pay for coming forward. And again, it looks like that might be one of his biggest, his biggest flaws, his biggest problems. Again, not being able to fight going backwards. Here we've got him getting on the line, getting pushed off, slipping to the front foot a little bit here, right? And again, his opponent knows he's done this move, slipping to the front foot, doing nothing so many times. He doesn't ever cross the line with that rear hand. He doesn't get any control. But look at this. Look at when he finally jumps back and he throws a little combination here. One of the best things that he does is just throw a 3-punch combination eventually. But again, it takes him so long, bop, 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 to finally let those shots go. But again, no head movement. His head's not moving at all. Again, I want you guys to think about this. Very, very, very important sequence. Very, very, very important pattern of striking, I'll say. And again, the way that he goes about delivering his offense winds up being very consistent. Now, again, Orlando Salido trying to time him getting to the front foot so he can whack him with that rear hand. Lomachenko doing an excellent, excellent job here. Beautiful job of feinting him, using these limited skills that he has to get into a position again, right? Again, now, I know limited, right? But again, hear me out. We got a lot to go. Jumping off the line, and then again, he gets into a position where he's going to use his hand speed, tap, 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 right, to generate a scoring advantage. Again, the capability of him to just do this at any time it's always there. Okay, and again, when we talk about We Fight How We Train, we're going to be looking for these types of patterns. We're going to be talking about them, why they're so important. Here he is again getting chased around. He's not really a counter puncher, even though that winds up being his best move, right? The counter punching stuff. Now, again, here he is. His opponent is just getting on the line. He's just going to come onto the line like, basically like an average scrub, right? You know how like an average scrub who knows he's losing, that guy who knows he can't fight. He just wants to get on the line and throw a hard punch and see what happens, right? Orlando Salido's doing that, and it's being effective against him. Again, he doesn't know how to block punches. And more importantly, I want you guys to take a look at his structure here. Okay, now this is one of the biggest reasons why Lomachenko isn't very good at going backwards. The exact same reason why Gennady Golovkin was bad going backwards is because of the fact that he doesn't really have a back foot. He always tries to stay on his front foot, tries to keep his weight forward on the front leg, and he doesn't actually shift his weight toward the back foot and kind of stay there. His weight will shift there for maybe a moment, and then he's immediately pendulum stepping to regain his front foot. Again, as we see here, penduluming, and then he makes it to the front foot again, front foot, back foot, and again, he's making it to the front foot. But again, this is where he wants to be. Look at where his head is angled here when he gets to the line here. And then again, he doesn't have the proper hand placement. He doesn't know how to correctly block a shot. And he always has that hole there. And then even worse, where's the combination here, right? He just let the guy steal a bunch of punches for free. And it's like one of those weird syndromes, where he's trying to make it look prettier than it is, right? He's trying to make it look prettier than it is, and not just doing the combination thing, not just throwing a couple punches. His opponent is like wildly out of position, right? Again, feinting him, getting him to throw those punches. A little bit of wrestling here. Ooh. Again, poor defense. I don't know why I wanted to show that clip. Maybe I'll think about it a little bit later when I remember. But let's go to round 5. Okay. Feinting him here. Again, drawing him out with that shot, jumping off the line, timing him again. Not a very good hook right there. Okay, not a very good hook. Okay, again, all-time great skills, all-time great flaws. We're going to be film studying these key important moves, these key important sequences in each round. 130, again, on the inside here. Is Loma spoiling? Is he feint? Gets him to come in. Again, counter. Very interesting because this is a common position for Loma to wind up in later in his career. It feels like later in his career it's more necessary than it winds up looking like here. It looks like he just doesn't want to, fight here with Salido. Let's get to the next clip. Maybe I'll think about why I wanted to include that there too. A little bit of a down up here, right? Now Lomachenko is a little bit of a 2-foot puncher, using his structure right there to come up with the shot right there. Decent shot. And then feinting him here. And again, another one here. Now, again, when you think about Lomachenko, he's been able to cross this guy's line since round 1. And here he is in round 5, landing a shot that's been open the whole fight. His opponent doesn't have like a good guard. It's not like his hands are in a good position. It's not like his hands are up. It's not like he's doing anything special, right? The guy's like completely outclassed, and it's really interesting because, again, it kind of tells you, exactly what it is that Lomachenko knows about fighting, what he's comfortable about doing. But again, when we talk about, when we get to his other, when we get to the training clips, we're going to talk about that stuff and the why. But again, poor defense here, right? Moving straight down, trying to get under this shot. Again, it's crazy, because normally Guys are not going to make it to the top with these kind of flaws. Again, his hands are up here. He's in his guard here. And when he goes to block this shot, he moves just right into this shot. He doesn't really know how to block punches. Okay. And again, this is going to be one of those things that he doesn't really get better at as his career goes on. Getting put on the ropes here, eating punches. Where's his follow-up? All the way in right there. Really, really decent right there. Some okay defense, right? But at what point does he let his hands go, right? Now, all this is very important, right? A couple of jabs here. He's got a couple of double jab patterns we're going to talk about a little bit later. All right, next clip here. Little parrying here on the inside here. Again, not really fighting out of his position one very well when he makes it to the right side of the line. Little combination here as he's trying to come in. And again, boom, boom, boom. Very, very interesting. Why is it, always a combination punch, right? Now, again, we're going to talk about this a little bit later when we get to the we fight how we train portion. But we're almost out of clips for this fight here. Again, coming forward, seeing the guy come forward. Boom, feints him. Front foot, back foot. Here he is penduluming on him, right? And again, he can time him here with this shot, right, at any time. But he still lets him cross the line with his right hand hook, right? That one that he's been throwing all fight long. Very interesting. Okay, next clip. Beautiful work right there. Nice little pull counter. Again, decent, right? Follows him back with a nice shot. Not bad, not bad. I think that's it for this round, though. Walks right through his guard here with the rear hand. Again, Lomachenko doesn't always have very good head movement. And again, here he is giving him a fake move and almost goes down. Okay, again, all-time great flaw. He tries to do that thing where he gets to the front foot and make that big pivot out, but he winds up getting whacked. Really good shot from Salido. Now, I thought this was really weird. They're fighting on the inside here. And the referee's trying to get him to do this thing, and wham, he gets kind of caught really, really good here. Just wanted to include that, not for any super particular reason, but on the semi-lazy infighting or inside fighting, a little bit of the gentleman inside of him, I guess. But we're almost done with this fight. We got just this last clip here, and then we're going to move on to the next fight. Again, fake move here, and here he is paying for it, right? He got away with it earlier and was able to pivot and make a move. And then here he is trying the same exact thing. And again, he wound up losing this fight by some small margins. He does wind up hurting Salido later in the fight and landing a good shot, but he does wind up landing a good shot. But it's just not enough. There's so much space where he's moving around and he's not scoring. And again, we're going to talk about it when we look at the we fight how we train portion of the video. Here we're going to get into, right away, we're going to get into Loma versus Gary Russell, one of my favorite fights. And yeah, we're going to start off. It starts off really quick. This fight is just nuts. So starts off with a leaping hook, right? And immediately in the closed stance here, Loma shows, he's been training for this fight, catching that very fast jab right away of Russell and trying to counter it immediately with his own, to eliminate a little bit of the control from the speed that Gary Russell's going to get. By being able to throw that shot at any time, it'll give him a lot of space. Because there's so many places you're like, oh, I might be vulnerable to that. I don't want to get hit by that. So if he can continue pumping it out with uncontested, then he'll be able to move around the ring freely. And Lomachenko right away, 3 seconds in, takes that away from him. Love that. Gotta love that. Next clip here, one of my favorite clips here. These guys are going to get on the line with each other. Slip. They both come down up with their jab here. And once they settle here, they both use a little bit of defensive responsibility, predicting that there was some danger there, feinting each other, getting on the line. Ba, slip. He comes up with the shot. Gary Russell Jr.'s defense not great there, but they both come up and expect a return fire. Just beautiful, beautiful high-level boxing in this fight overall. Slip into the front foot. Now, Lomachenko, not a left hook or a right hook fighter. Now also, not a lot of rear hands over the top. He's going to have some in this jab, but again, doesn't fight out of this front foot position here very often and very well. Making it to the front foot, crossing the line, doing that thing, right? And then just not able to make any offense out of it yet. Again, that was one of the big problems that he had in the fight with Salido. He would make it to that position quite often and then not get any value. Baiting him into throwing that shot. Beautiful little feint right there from Loma. Getting him into this position. Now again, not very good at blocking punches. Again, his defense, he doesn't move his head when he punches. Again, he likes that little tool with the little rival tool, the little tennis ball attached to your head. Doesn't let you move your head at all. Also, there's a lot of other problems in his shadow boxing and his heavy bag work that we're going to talk about. But again, when we think about Lomachenko, his offense winds up being mostly flurries. Okay, and we're going to talk about that. Again, slipping to the front foot here. Again, decent defense, but look at him being forced, right, to move around. Make it to that front foot position, right? Did he throw a rear hand here like Teofimo Lopez against Comey? No. Did he come up with the hook when he did this move? No. A lot of very superfluous movements here, a lot of very, very bad movements, and a lot of waste of movement, right? Decent catching the jab here. Again, a lot of jab battle. And he does do a decent job making it through the jab. Now, very, very interesting here. He's going to get to this position here. Cross the line. He did the thing, right? Boom. But notice he coils here, right? And then comes up to kind of hide that he's going to be throwing this shot here. It's not exactly the same thing. I want you to pay attention to. Again, this is very important, okay? This is not the position that he's going to wind up in when he throws his rear hand, okay? He's going to go down here, and now he throws it. He's not crouched. He's not down. He's in a completely different position than when he threw his punch. Okay, it's very important. Comes up holding, very important as well. Again, when we think about Loma, so much of his offense is actually predicated on those flurries, right? He'll just kind of bust into some shots, right, and then start scoring. But a lot of his single punch work winds up being, kind of floppy, kind of, not great, I want to say. It's not super hard. Here he is, one of my favorite clips here. He's going to control him, gets Gary Russell to counter his jab. He pulls here and then comes up with this shot. Even though his head's getting pulled on, kind of a cool little technique here, moving into this shot. It's very similar to Ryan Garcia, the way that he likes to do his, get that momentum going, right? Boom, blast into that hook. Very, very cool sequence there from Loma. Pairing the jab, pulling here, coming up with the rear hand. And again, when he comes up with that rear hand, notice he's not in the same position that he slips in, right? Again, this is one of the reasons why when he's moving around, he's not throwing as many rear hands. He's not controlling as much space like Salido was, right? Salido was getting on the line with the great Lomachenko. How? This bum? But it happened, right? Now, a little feint here, trying to get Gary Russell out of position. Gary Russell Doesn't change position here, gets feinted. Loma changing positions a little bit, right? And look at the combination that he throws, right? Very, very unorthodox combination here. He's going to start with a 3 to the body, boom, boom, and then a 2 to the body, and then a 3 to the head, right? But again, it's not one punch. It's a flurry of punches that he throws here. It's a combination. But notice how he struggled, right, still to pin Gary Russell down to get him into position. Notice how when he slipped to the front foot, is this his feint? Couldn't he have also thrown a punch here? Right? But again, he just misuses this position over and over and over and over again. Okay. Here we go into the next clip. Now, very, very funny clip here because Gary Russell Jr. is getting beat. His jab is getting dominated here, so he's going to make a slight adjustment. Very, very, very cool move here. He's going to throw that jab. And remember last round where Loma baited him into throwing that jab? He slipped the jab, came up with that right hook, and it was so sick. Well, he's going to try to do something similar here. He slips the jab, and then Gary Russell is just going to commit to throwing a 1, 2, and a 3 here and not allow Lomachenko to get any value out of it, and does a great job. You know, really, really good job. The only thing is if you don't knock your opponent out here and you do that, you're expending an incredible amount of energy there. Yeah, sometimes it's not always worth it, you know. But if you're going to land, who cares, you know? Now, Lomachenko here is breaking one of my most fundamental rules in boxing. He's going to make an attack on the line. He's going to throw this 3 here, and then he moves to this position. A lot of wasted movement here. Okay, he throws the leaping shot, right? Doesn't come down with a 2, moves into the 2 position. And then after he does, he leaves the position, okay? Breaks the rules of what I call the track, okay? And my track theory, if you guys want to know what that is, check out the Discord, or you can buy my 1-inch punch seminar. It's like 40 hours of content teaching people how to build athleticism with what I call 2-foot punching to develop your 1-inch punch, and then how to weaponize that for boxing. But he winds up breaking one of the rules that keeps you safe after moving to a position. He tries to leave that position here, crossing the line without feinting, controlling, or doing anything on the inside without punching. And he winds up doing it really slow and getting caught here. Again, showing that Lomachenko doesn't actually use his front foot position efficiently. Because if he was moving into that position, he should have been doing it so that he could do that little pendulum thing that he wants to do to get the angle. Or he should be coming out of that with his right hook. Remember, again, in the beginning of the film study, I told you guys he did not have a very good right hook, and that was one of the best places that he could possibly be throwing it, and he's not throwing it. Okay, it's all very, very, very important for the overall arching idea of figuring out who Lomachenko is and why he actually, you know, why he looked so good for so long and then wound up failing. Okay. Little pull counter right here. Excellent shot from Gary Russell on Lomachenko. And then what does Lomachenko do? He busts into a flurry, right? He's going to control with a little easy shot, not the hard. He's penduluming forward. Most of his jabs are stepping jabs. Gary Russell winds up timing it pretty well. Again, he doesn't block punches very well. He doesn't actually interact with punches all that well. He kind of, I don't want to say he gets lucky, you know, but then he flurries a little bit, throws his fast hands, and it looks a little better for him. Little stepping jab. And again, when Lomachenko looks the best, he's doing stuff like this, right? Really, right? And trying to throw his hands really quickly. Again, this is another move that we're going to see him do in training as well. But again, most of those moves, most of the time when he's doing stuff really well, he's flurrying. He's taking advantage of the fact that he's faster and more conditioned than his opponent. He's in better shape, right? All that stuff has a massive impact on his ability to just let those punches fly. Now here he is feinting here, getting to this position, pinning Gary Russell's hands to his head, and then hitting him. Now again, he's in this position. He's not got a good guard. He's still getting hit there and not utilizing that position 1 very effectively. Again, all things that wind up having a dramatic impact on the overall course of the entire fight. Now, beginning of the next round, Gary Russell pushing Lomachenko around. Again, Lomachenko not a very good counterpuncher, right? Not doing the thing that he's supposed to do when somebody just jumps on his line all crazy like that. Again, all-time great skills and flaws. We're just trying to get a grip of who Lomachenko is. Whoops, not far back enough. Feinting here. Pull. Now, uppercut into a hook right here. This is one of those moves that's always really, really dangerous. Again, doesn't like to move his head. Pull. Be very careful with this move. But I thought it was pretty cool. Again, pushing him off the line. Is he countering? And Gary Russell just trying to take advantage of the fact that he can be fast and trying to steal some points. He's not really trying to set anything up. Again, just trying to push Lomachenko around. Boom, rear hand right there. Now, again, he lands a rear hand right there, moves to this front foot position, and then has no offense. Again, once he gets there, completely lost. Completely lost. Oops. Feints him. Again, I do want to say Lomachenko, pretty damn good feinting, right? One of the things that he does kind of well, again, moving his hands pretty quick, and he gets to a position where his opponent knows, oh, it's time to break into it. He was just getting out of his pendulum walk, but he feints him here to get him to move into the move and gets off the line. And then when he follows up. Now, again, I want to point out, look at this little baby shot here. Okay, again, pa. There's no power on that. He's not hitting him hard. Okay, and again, we're going to talk about We Fight How We Train, exactly why he has this flaw, why he has this problem, okay, and why he's not getting the value out of a shot like that like he should. Jab catch, jab catch. Now, Lomachenko, one of those guys that's actually pretty excellent at throwing the pitter-patter shit, right? Now, again, we're going to talk about this and how that relates, right? But this is him doing the same thing. Right, throwing shots, they don't have to land, and he gets Gary Russell Jr. to try to commit to a counter that couldn't have landed because he threw it when he was out of range, and he's trying to attack that range, right? Touching the gloves again, not actually trying to score, but actually utilizing a little bit of non-punching activity to generate an advantage. Again, something that was kind of lost at the time of his arrival on the scene. Right? Not a lot of people using non-punching activity. Now, again, feinting Gary Russell Jr. with the good feints here. Again, bad defense. His hands not in good position. A lot of flaws right there. Oops. Feinting him again. Again, easy to feint Gary Russell. He's fast, but I don't want to say easy, but he has to respect the feints, right? He absolutely has to. He can't just not. Now, very interesting, right? Lomachenko, he's going to pendulum onto his line, and then jumps on the line and throws a rear hand here. How often do we ever see Lomachenko do that move here? Why is this the only time anyone has ever seen him do that move here? Now, is this the position that he winds up being in when he's slipping and playing around on the line? Is this the position that he practices? Well, when we take a look at this, We Fight How We Train, we're going to see. Okay, but again, he winds up getting hit right out of this position. Very, very poor post-punch defense there. Not really defending his line at all. Okay, and again, that has a dramatic impact on your overall career. Okay, when you can't jump onto somebody's line like Teofimo Lopez, attack them, and then get off, right? You're in trouble, right? Again, just pushing him around, not looking to interact. Lomachenko not actually a good counterpuncher. Now, again, when Lomachenko's doing his thing, it's a flurry, right? Here he is, the best thing. Lomachenko one punch at a time. He could, but he doesn't throw very many one punches at a time. We did see him land one punch at a time a second ago, and it was a good shot, but he just stood there for no reason. So getting on the line, 1, 2, crossing the line, and then coming with the leaping shot. Again, a flurry. And then post-punch defense almost gets hit, right? Now, we're not living in a world where almost counts, all that stuff, but we, as fighters, we know those margin of errors, they don't always exist. We don't always get that lucky. Excellent shot right there. Beautiful, beautiful shot. Excellent, excellent shot from Loma here. Timing here. Boom. Really good shot and getting off the line here. Just want to show that as a highlight more so than a teaching moment. Now, Lomachenko, he's going to do something here. He's going to put on a lot of pressure. Boom. Not a lot of head movement. Jumping onto this punch here. Bop, bop. Now, again, very poor once he makes it to the right side of the line. Very bad hook right here. Not very snappy. Hitting with the wrist. Okay. But I want to point out, Look at how capable he is of doing this, right? Of using that energy, a little block removal right there. Excellent work. Boom, another one. Now, I want to point out, while everything looks all smooth and that's cool, that was a good clean shot right there. Okay? Instead of throwing a clean shot right here, he just threw his hand right here. He could have punched him. He's doing a block removal to hit him. He could have punched him there. He could have punched him here. The guy's not even moving his head. And he throws a hook right here. There's already holes around this guy's guard, right? Now, where's those uppercuts, Loma? Right? Where's those uppercuts? Okay. All right, we're going to move on to the next clip here. Got him in the corner again. And again, Lomachenko, not really a counter puncher. Okay. Very, very, very important. Getting him in this position here. He's not always counter punching, not choosing. Very, very, very seldom time he'll wind up in his position 2 here. And then again, notice how quickly he forces his body back into position 1 there. Okay, all very, very important pieces. Again, how easy, I mean, easy is relative, right? It's not easy for everyone to get Lomachenko out of position, right? But if you're fast and you can get him out of position, there's a lot of value to be had. Timing that with a pull counter, boom, boom. Again, Lomachenko looks the best when he's letting his hands go, right? A little bit of a nice sequence there off of a pull counter, not bad. Pull counter here, boom, excellent shot here. Now again, a little bit of head movement here, right? Standing straight up when he throws that shot. Decent bodying up here, decent. More of Lomachenko kind of letting himself go here. Again, Lomachenko looks the most impressive when he's flurrying, right? When he's throwing combinations. Again, why is he struggling so much on the inside to let his hands go here? Where's those flurries at? Looking pretty okay. Looking pretty okay. Why does it take him so long in the fight to get to this point? You know, it's interesting too because he doesn't really throw hard single shots, you know, like boxing shots. You know, you see somebody like Keith Thurman circling and moving around and throwing big hammers, right? Just boom, you know, big, huge shots. Floyd Mayweather leaping shots, right, on the outside, big right hands that he could drop you with, he could hit you hard. But Lomachenko, all pitter-patter stuff on the outside, you know, not really putting a lot of effort into it. You know, it's fascinating to kind of think about it more so than to like condemn him, but like what is his fight theory, right? Again, excellent shot right there. Where's the follow-up, right? Look at how he exits that position. He dominated him on the line here. Feinted him, got him stepping in with this shot, timed him over the top. Again, Lomachenko doesn't usually practice very good hooks. He doesn't usually practice throwing punches where he moves his head. And he doesn't even land that punch very cleanly because of it. You know, the massive amount of advantage that he had on the line right there, and you know he winds up fumbling that whole position here. Excellent work there from Gary Russell, timing him here. Boom, pulling, and he throws a combination. Psh, psh. Now again, I want you guys to pay attention to this when we see him on the mitts, when we see him practicing his defense, okay? Look at him doing this move here, right? I just want you guys to pay attention to that later, for later. Okay, here we go into round 10. And beautiful work right there. I just want to highlight this. You know, this is exactly what you're supposed to do when someone thinks that they can just jump on your line. They make an attack, boom, 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 boom. Gary Russell just unloading, saying, okay, bruh, can't let you be on my line like that, right? And just really letting them have it. Really good work. Again, doing a good job there. Same thing. Again, very poor defense there from Loma. These shots are coming in for free around the guard. I suspect that both of them, that doesn't look like that one lands, but it looked like the first one landed here. And again, has to just kind of fight back. He kind of has to just let himself try to score. Again, good feint right there. Penduluming in on him, whacking him. Again, very, very limited with his ability to get on the line, right? He has a trick that he has to use to get on the line. And if he's not using that trick, it's kind of just not working super well for him. Pull counter, again, really, really nice shot right there. Honestly, like one of the cleanest and best, boom, boom, boom. Beautiful sequences there in the whole fight. Comes in, again, one of my most hated moves. Again, all-time great mistakes. If your coach has ever even one time said to do this, even one time, they don't know shit about boxing. Shit. All right? But he's going to jab here and then try to slip to the front foot, and look at him just get smacked. It's absolutely one of the worst moves you could possibly be trying to do in all of combat sports. Beautiful move right here. Oh, man. And again, Lomachenko's at his best when he's actually using his hand speed, right? Everyone's saying like, oh, his footwork, it's this, it's that, it's the matrix, it's, but honestly, like, it feels like everything that he does with his footwork just makes, all that fancy shit is just hurting him. It's making him a worse fighter, because if he were to just box a little bit, look at him, he's on the line, the guy controlled him, he's pulling here, boom, 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 right? Throws a combination. Right? Getting that kind of stuff off after dragging his opponent into a bad shot right there. That's like a really high level skill, right? Being able to connect the 3 punches like that. Not easy. Not easy at all. Beautiful. Now, again, if your opponent gets on your line, right? How many times has Gary Russell Jr. been into a position like this and Loma's been in a position where he could do that? Honestly, like, it's just completely nonsensical that there are so many times where Gary Russell could get on his line and be so susceptible to a move like that. And not have to pay for it. That he just allows him to do that. And this is the other guy. Okay, here we go into... Okay, we got a whole bunch more clips to look at. Again, I'm not trying to do a half-assed film study where I talk shit about Loma and then don't deliver. Here's a little hook right here, right? And I want to point out, no head movement on here, but where's this move been, right? He lands a good shot here, really, really nice shot. Excellent work, but very, very seldom in his routine is he doing that move here. Okay, not a bad move here. Get on the line with the jab there, and then get on the line with the jab, pulling a little bit as he's stepping forward into this move here, right? Trying to be a little bit sneaky here, and comes forward, front, stepping, and then the guy throws the shot, and he kind of pulls back just a little bit to kind of follow him back. Pretty clean move. Nice stealing a shot. Where's the combination, right? Why are you not opening up? What are you waiting for, right? A little bit of that, like, Loma's going to play with him, right? What's he going to do? Now, Lomachenko gets tapped right here with this rear hand. I just want to point out, no head movement, right? The guy just kind of let his hand go, just kind of tossed the shot out there. No big deal, right? But he kind of lands a free shot here. Loma drags him out here, feinting him, getting on the line, see him give him that hard little feint and draw him out. Again, I think that might be Loma's, like, man, is that his best move right there? I think that might be his best move, right? He looks so convincing that he's going to get on the line and attack you. He looks so convincing that almost every single one of these guys flies out of their line to try to make contact with him. And he gets so much value out of this. It's such an efficient move for him. And he just, he uses it a little bit, right? Gets a shot right there. Why did he stop throwing? Why didn't he flurry? Why did he only throw one punch here? He's so far ahead of this guy. It doesn't make any sense. Now, slips to the front foot. Oh my God, he's controlling with the rear hand. That's new, right? Hasn't really done that in this fight. Now, just want to point out real quick, I talked about it a little bit on Patreon here. He's fixing his trunks, and he goes to control him, and now he's going to like fix his trunks fake and give him a dirty look. Hey, see, I was doing the thing. Jumps on his line with a 1-2. Hey, I don't give a fuck. Telling him, this is war, okay? After the Salido loss, there's no time for that shit. Slipping to the front foot, still not getting any value, hasn't learned. Okay. Oh, is he? Makes it around the line there with the rear hand. Not throwing a right hook, doing some goofy little footwork stuff that didn't result in any punches, and he lost the lead foot dominance that he had. Again, he's going to make it into this position here. Take the foot. Why isn't he just unloading punches? He takes another angle here, and he takes a bad angle. He steps around it and puts his feet in bad places. Okay? Honest, bad places. Makes it to this position. Didn't throw a left hook as he crossed the line. Didn't throw a right hook to go back. Winds up bodying up for no reason. Again, a little bit of wasted movement. Stepping jab from our slip into the front foot again. Why didn't he counter with the left hand? Right? We saw him do it before, right? Again, he's not really a counter puncher. He's not really that guy. He's not really. Okay. Hunting him a little bit. Moves to that position again. Penduluming around. And again, that's the same move that we saw him do to Salido that cost him a punch. Right? He got hit when he did this. And again, didn't learn here. Hasn't realized that it's a bad move. And continue doing it in the next fight, right? In his next open stance. Okay, little pull into a little flurry there, 2-punch combination, and then he stops and then moves off of the line, gives up his lead foot dominance. What is this dude doing? Pull, excellent shot, and then again, one of the best things that he ever does. Moving around, pull, ba ba ba. The guy's not even ready to get out of the position. He's just trying to pin Lomachenko down. And Lomachenko pulls that shot, comes up with a combination. Easy work. Easy work. And again, it's the thing that Lomachenko does the best. Just let his hands go. Just go tap, tap, tap. Tap, tap, tap. It's not his goofy-ass angles that cost him punches. It's not, the head movement, all that stuff. Like, it's really not. It's really not. It's really more simple than that. Again, not really a counter puncher. Now, I wanted to point this clip out. He's moving around, getting his probes out. Again, look at him touching the line here with these little lead hands here. He's just touching, right? It's not supposed to land. Touch, 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 right? Touch, touch, non-punching activity. Boom. Now, look at him pendulum around here. Parry. And look at him parry. Okay, just because he knows the rhythm, he knows the timing, right? He knows that was the timing at which the guy could have exploded out of the move. He's leaving now. And he was anticipating a jab. I just wanted to show that, again, a lot of experience, right? But just doesn't formulate a very good structure for his game plan, right? And his workout, I'll say. Again, little pity-patter stuff here. Boom, boom, boom. His best work when he starts flurrying, right? Got a little bit of control of them. Tap, 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 tap. Found another shot. Found a bunch of free work, right? And again, did that goofy thing. Boom, boom, boom. There's some free punches. And now here he's pendulum. Now he's still penduluming, taking angles instead of punching. And now the guy's gone. He got one punch, but. Okay. Round. Oh, whoops, we missed one. Oh, no, we didn't miss this one. We did this one, right? Yeah, we just did this one. I'm not talking about. I'm crazy. Okay. Okay, 241 here. Boom. Pendulums around. And again, did he need to do that? Was this exactly what he needed to do to land a shot? Boom. We've seen him go bop, bop, bop before, but instead he does a right He does a right hand, and now he does a left hand weight transition to shift his weight to the right leg so he can pendulum step around him like this and control him with the right hand to throw the left hand again. But he missed 2 punches along the way. He gets there with the jab, and he goes boom, and now he shifts. Here, he could have thrown a right hand, and now he leaps. He could have thrown, a left hand with the last weight transition, and with this one, he could be throwing a right hook and penduluming and then throwing that shot. But he's giving away all these free beats of punches. He's wasting it, and it looks like that's the fancy stuff that he's doing. That looks like the stuff that, oh man, hell yeah, dude, if I could do that, I'll be greatest fighter ever, and it's actually the stuff that's costing him. Pull, comes up with the combination. Again, his flurry. His flurry is really the impressive part of all of his work. Again, where's the flurries, right? His 1 punch at a time stuff, not even hard, right? He's not throwing any hard punches. It's all pitter patter, and again, it just winds up being important. It just winds up being important. It's one of the reasons why he had so many close fights. I guess we can show that a little bit. He's going to chase him a little bit. Again, flurries. The flurries are what really do it. And he winds up, again, taking the angle off of the hook right there, and then re-pendulums again for no reason, and lands this shot, and he gets a drop. Gets a knockdown right there. Pretty good to get the knockdown, but, a lot of holes there. Hurt him right there. And again, pushes him off the line. Boom, boom. His hand speed, right? His hand speed, again, winds up being the most important and impressive thing about Lomachenko. It's not the angles, the fake stuff. Again, his hooks right there are so bad. His block removal stuff is like okay at best. And we see him when he really gets going. And look at what happened to him right there. Why did he stop? What happened to him? Just he had the guy in a bad position. He lets the guy get out of it by not having good rhythm and not having good timing. He's kind of just randomly throwing his punches when he gets him on the ropes right there. And again, because he's slowing down, he's not going, I don't want to say full retard, but he's not throwing his hardest or his fastest shots. He's not, right? He's not, and he just winds up throwing at a rhythm that the guy can catch up to him and keep up with him. Oops. Whoops. 1 second, guys. Okay. Where were we? What round are we in? 5. Okay. So following him around, again, Lomachenko, he gets followed around like this because he doesn't have hard single punches, walks him into a little flurry right there, right? Again, the best thing that he winds up doing is letting his hands go and being kind of quick. Again, he didn't need that little pendulum there. I think it winds up on average, and he doesn't even fight from the position. Boom, 2. Doesn't throw the 3 to make the move. Boom, and doesn't continue fighting from the new front foot position that he winds up being in. Again, breaking that position, breaking that rhythm twice, right? Bodies up with them. Again, he's not worried about Lomachenko's individual power. Lomachenko literally can't keep him off of him. Now, Lomachenko actually breaks his hand, I think, right there on him. Again, no right hook from Lomachenko. He doesn't really have a good right hook. Again, something that's been very consistent through his whole career. But that punch right there, he breaks his hand. He's going to shake his left hand right there. You see him shake his hand out there. I think he broke his hand. So he's going to fight the rest of the fight because this guy he was fighting here, he really should have knocked this guy out like pretty easily. This shouldn't have been much of a contest for that guy. But Lomachenko's going to do some cool stuff here, controlling the line with just his right hand, right? Again, good thing for him, he does actually train that way as well. And we're going to take a look at that, even though you should not be training that way. And again, we're going to talk about how all that stuff influences his fighting. If you guys want to skip ahead, again, we're not going to do any half-assed film studies over here. But again, penduluming around, he can't really take advantage of all the angles because he can't really use his rear hand, so he can only punch every so often anyway. But yeah, I just want to show those moves here. Again, a lot of fake movement here. If he could do this to this guy here with one hand, why wasn't he doing it like that when he had two? Again, it just doesn't make any sense how his fighting philosophy works. And again, we're going to talk about it. Again, just getting pushed off the line, not for any good reason here. There had to have been a better reason to show that clip. I don't think I would be wasting everybody's time with it, but I don't know. Again, this guy that he's fighting here has such a bad guard, right? Look at Loma just sitting in front of him, tap, 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 tap. And again, this is the position that Loma finds himself in his fights in, where he's in a position to throw whatever he wants. And it's like whenever he wants to do that, he can do that. But he just doesn't wind up doing it. He doesn't wind up getting power in his shots. Again, look at him controlling the line there with the lead hand. Touch, touch, touch. Again, little block removal into that shot. Again, some decent work in here against this guy. And pretty good performance. Rear hand probe for people who don't usually have head movement. Now, crazy, right? Look at him come in here with this head movement. Move, and then come with this little cross here. Why isn't it that when Loma hurt his hand here and he learned that he could do this, why didn't he continue doing that to people? Why does that skill disappear? His ability to cross the line like that and find offense. Again, look at him standing completely fine in front of this guy, hands down and everything, and the guy can't stop him. So much of this Lomachenko stuff just doesn't make sense, But here we go into round one of the last fight film study. Let me get my little note card open. All right, and again, we've got a lot of clips to go over still. And then a whole bunch of we find how we train stuff to go over as well. Moving into that front foot position, again, Lomachenko still not utilizing it correctly. His opponent's seeing it only as a weakness. Again, if you see your opponent moving into that position, right? Again, remember early in the last fight, we saw him move to that position a little bit, and the guy came after him, and he had the right hook. We just saw in the last clip, right, at the end of the fight, he came to this position and came with a right hand, right, when he left. But here, again, his opponent has seen him cross the line again. He's seen no offense when he goes into the position, no offense when he comes out of the position. And now he already feels safe to try to be the one to take advantage of it and try to score. Little feint with the rear hand there. And then again, feinting and that rear hand coming. We can tell that makes it around the guard. This is technically a scoring blow for that gentleman. And again, Lomachenko not getting better as his career goes. Control, giving him a little bit of feint, and then popping him with that rear hand into the right cross. Now again, his opponent is not going to get any better. And Lomachenko is already landing that shot really early in the round. Okay, but for whatever reason, Lomachenko doesn't wind up being able to capitalize on it against his opponent with basically a mediocre guard. Jab, slip to the front foot, control, 2, right? Boom, right? Again, this guy doesn't get any better, and Lomachenko is going to fight this guy for much longer than he needs to, simply because, number one, well, he doesn't have any good single punches, right? Jumps on the line here with a 1, 2, 3. Not bad. Control here. I want to point out no head movement on that. Just a good 1, 2, 3. Not bad though, right? But no head movement. And again, we're going to take a look at and talk about all that stuff. Rear hand probe. Not bad, right? Where did this come from, right? Cross the line a little bit there. Does it look the same, guys? No, it doesn't, right? Because he's going to cross the line, slipping across, and now he's going to go down and then across the line. Doesn't look the same, right? Slipping the line, coming up with that shot. Now, this was a move that he used quite a bit when he broke his hand against the last guy, slipping to the front foot. Again, one of the very, very, very few moves that he does punching from this position, right? Very, very few. Very weird that he doesn't have more moves like that, right? Very weird. Control, fake move, boom, moves into a punch. Again, what the hell are you doing, dude? What the hell are you doing? Jumps on the line with a 1, 2, 1. Kind of gets caught, but also slip to the front foot. Doesn't throw a rear hand as he makes it to this position. Does a goofy-ass pivot like this and winds up losing the position. Again, the footwork there winds up being the worst part of what he does there. And the best part, bop, bop, bop. The flurry. Pull. What if he just comes up with another bop, bop, bop instead of doing some goofy-ass footwork? Again, just very, very, very poorly structured combat from Loma. Slip into the front foot, makes it to the front foot. Does he come back with the hook? Does he have a counter? Is it a pull? Is it this? No. He gets 1-2'd. He just gets 1-2'd. Again, completely misusing the front foot position, not utilizing it correctly at all. Back foot. Not really. Into a rear hand. Good job. Again, he walks onto the guy's line, and he can hit him with that move anytime. Why doesn't he practice a straight left hand like Yoel Casamayor? Why doesn't he get some real power into it? Right? If he can do this to these guys in the first round of the first fight, or the first round of the first minute of the first round, right? I know it's the fourth, but he's doing it at the beginning of every round. Why isn't he getting these guys out of there earlier? Right? Again, he doesn't really have power. He doesn't really. And again, we're going to talk about that. He doesn't really practice that kind of stuff. We're going to talk about it when we look at the We Fight How We Train stuff. So it's coming. It's coming. Don't worry. Little fake move right there, pivoting on the front foot. And then again, the best thing that he has going for him is his flurries, right? So he's going to feint him here, boom, as he's getting to the front foot. And then pulls, right? Again, his feint is so good. And now his opponent's on the front foot, and now he has to recharge his weight here. He's moving to the back foot. Loma's going to control him. Da-da-da-da-da-da-da. And that's the best thing that Loma does. Okay? That's the best thing that he does. It's not the angles. Again, one of the least used moves from Loma in his whole career, coming up here, coming up with the uppercut into the hook, though, right? Now, he's kind of leaping with it a little bit, which might be why he doesn't use it so much, but he always takes the angle anyway. He always does it. He's just missing this punch 99% of the time. And again, it winds up being a massive source of offense in his fights, very likely costing him the Salido fight. Yeah. Anyway, other stuff too. The Haney fight, not getting enough points. And again, just letting his hands go. Just tap, tap, tap. Nothing fancy, right? He's just better than this guy. He's just better, right? You don't need to convince the guy. You just got to get him out of there. Again, opening up with another combination. That's a very similar one that he did to Gary Russell right there, where he gets to the front foot and he goes right, left, right, and then pendulums, boom, and another body shot there. Again, if he would just stick to simple stuff like this, right, he would be just so much more brutally efficient, but for whatever reason, he had to be all fancy and shit, and just give up space and, slip, Again, misusing that position completely, not getting any value out of it. Just disgusting. Control, control. Again, his flurries, right? Pull, bop, bop. Look at this. This is one of the most beautiful. Oh my goodness, amazing, right? Tap, 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 tap. He gets the guy to finally wind up and throw something. Whoa! Ba, 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 ba. Right? Now, again, if only he could be throwing a shot that was, hard and fast, right? Instead of always just throwing pitter-patter stuff, poop, 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 right? Fake move, costs him punches. He doesn't throw the leaping shot. Why not, dog? Why not? How could you be missing a leaping shot right there? Again, the flurries. It's the hand speed that's really doing the work right here. Kind of winds up getting hit low there. We don't care that much about it. Boom, boom, boom. Controlling him a lot. Again, doesn't really have good head movement. Walks into his shot right there. Yikes. Head movement. Oh my goodness. Again, still misusing the position, but with an uppercut there. Really, really nice work right there. Again, slipping. Doesn't really come and cross the line with the rear hand. Doesn't come back with the hook. Then comes back to the front foot. Doesn't have a rear hand that time either. But, right? And then for whatever reason, does a double rear hand. Again, just so much of his combat is just so unorganized and just doesn't make any sense at all. Whoops. Here we go. So opening up there with the 2, which was not too bad. Ooh, again, no head movement. And again, we talked about this earlier. For the most part, Lomachenko, he doesn't throw his power jab or whatever. He throws pity-patter jabs because here he is stepping jab right here, and the guy counters him. Right? We talked about it a little bit earlier. Again, we're going to see this in the We Fight How We Train portion as well. When we see all of these kind of things culminate into the same flaw over and over and over again. And you'll just be sitting there disgusted with yourself, being like, oh my God, what the hell? He should be better. Very, very poor block, very, very loose. Just allows the guy to throw the shot. Again, this move is for whatever reason just so amazingly effective against Lomachenko. But Lomachenko doesn't have one of his own. He does not have one of those moves he can do of his own, right? Good flooding the line, misses the leaping shot again, does the same move again, boom. We fight how we train. We'll see it, okay? All right, round 7. Control, control, again, pull, misuses the position completely. Just disgusting. He's controlling him. Control, 2. The 1 comes out, pull. He stays there. Doesn't even get a good block on. Eats it because his position 1 block is bad. And then doesn't come back with a hook because he doesn't have a goddamn hook. Makes it all the way back across the line. Doesn't even have a good block. Does make it out of this position without getting hit, though, by some miracle. And then his opponent's still stressed throwing all these punches. He doesn't come back with a goddamn counter. What are you doing? Anyway. Ooh, ooh, ooh. I mean, bad. Whoops. Didn't throw a left hand here. Control, control. Didn't throw a right hook as he crossed this way. Control, control, control. Tap, 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 tap. Right? Where's the power? Right? Why doesn't he have power? Why? Why, Pa? Why? 2-1, 1-2. Gets bodied up again, finding holes. Again, it's very difficult to grab and hold. An all-time great skill right there. Boom, excellent shot. And I think he drops him with that body shot here. Yeah, really good shot. But cross the line. Is he getting value? Is his opponent's guard good? Right? When we look at this guy's guard, this guy's not blocking anything. Lomachenko is just making the fight hard, right? And then again, he opens up with that weird punch, takes a big angle. Again, it looks all fancy and shit, but we can see that he's just wasting time. we can see that what he's doing is not good. It's actively not good boxing. Don't cry, Loma. Get in there and fight. Rear hand probe. Again, he can land that shot anytime he wants. Why doesn't he have power in that shot? Ooh, land that shot anytime he wants. Stepping jab, though. Be careful with that. And then again. Boom. Anytime he wants. Anytime he wants. You know, this guy has such a leaky defense. And Loma just, what? He can't seem to get a knockout? Again, the best thing about him is when he just lets his hands go. You know, it's not the angles. It's not this. It's not, you know, that, oh, I'm in the matrix shit. He's just faster than these guys, you know, and he's really just not taking advantage of it, you know, not nearly as much as he should be, right? Touch, taking a bad angle, right? Again, fake stuff, right? None of that is real. Oh, that's the end of the fight right there. Okay, now we're going to get into we fight how we train stuff. We're going to start with the mitts here. Oh no, is this? I think there's mitts in here. Now, when we take a look at him here, a little bit of those angles and stuff, but most of what he's doing, okay, mitts here first, right? Moving around. Remember when he ducked and he rolled under these shots, right? Remember, he doesn't have a good guard when the punches come, right? His hands are always in this exact position here, and look at him ducking. This is how he hopes to interact with punches, and then tap, tap. Were those hard shots? No. Ducking, right? Ducking. He's not moving his hands. He's not attempting to block, and then he takes a big pivot angle to beat the guy to the position, and he tries to follow up, pop, pop, right? He was, again, look at this, very, very bad block, very consistent with how he blocks punches in his fight. Again, very, very bad holes. Again, same thing with that block as well. Again, here, again, when the punches wrap around and they hit him, this defense is just very, very leaky. And then again, pitter-patter stuff. Nowhere in this routine is he going to be throwing any hard shots. It's all going to be that really fast, ta-ta-ta, right? And this is exactly how he fights in the ring, right? Trying to hope to interact with those things, try to pull straight back. Notice what's missing in here. You notice how he doesn't ever fight from position one in his fights, right? When he slips to the front foot, he doesn't work from there. He doesn't throw a rear hand into that position. He doesn't do pull counters from that position, right? He doesn't move into that position and then throw hooks, right? He's not doing any of that in his mitts either. All of it is this no head movement, no, none of this, just like a little bit of this stuff, patty pat stuff, right? A little bit of control, right? None of this is hard stuff. No hard rear hands, right? Just opening up, right? Where's his rear hand probe? What if he wants to just catch a guy? What if he just wants to catch a guy penduluming onto his line right here, right? Moving around again. So again, the best thing that Lomachenko does, right, is combinations and flurries, right? 1-2 there. Doesn't throw that combination very often, right? Usually has to get into his rhythm to do it, right? It'll be off of a pendulum that he does it. But where is that punch in his fight? Why doesn't he throw that shot? Why isn't he constantly doing that? Right? It's really interesting. Combination right there, right? 1-2 3. There was a jab there. Boom, 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 right? Notice when he gets going, this is actually what he looks like, right? Tap, 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 and then he'll have some wide hooks, right? But this is exactly what he looks like, right? Moving around, tap, 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 right? He just has to find a place to insert this combination that has zero head movement, right? Notice he's not practicing any head movement. It's only this timing, right? Where's the right hooks, right? It's all left hands, right? Big, wide left hand at the end, right? But again, a lot of speed, a lot of tap, 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 right? Again, just when Lomachenko is doing his best thing, that's exactly what he's doing on the mitts, right? Tap, tap, tap. Now, we're not going to be looking at this heavy bag work. We're going to be looking at another one. We got a better one to look at. Okay, here we go with this one here. Now, when we take a look at this, right? Is he moving his head? Does he slip to that front foot position, right? Look at the right hand right there, right? Just like when his hand was broken, very, very similar drills. Again, luckily he trains that way. Even though on average, I think it's bad. Don't train that way. Is he practicing any of his hardest single shots, right? It's mostly flurries, right? Right? Is he boxing the bag? Is he stepping around? Was there any head movement on that move, right? How often does he practice any of those shots in his fight, right? Not very often, right? Post-punch defense? Almost none, right? Now, he's just warming up a little bit. He's going to get into the fake footwork stuff a little bit later, but I want you just to pay attention to the fact that, again, when he's doing all this stuff, there you go. Boom, boom, pendulum into this rear hand. And again, when he does this move, he's getting on the line with his right hand, and now he's going to slip to the front foot, and now he's going to pendulum with no hook, and then boom. He's going to do this move so many times, and again, this is the move that he's learning to practice his best left hand on, right? So again, when he's standing in front of his opponent going 1-2, 1-2, 1, or 2-1, 2-1, 2, none of those are his best shots. He's just barely tapping him, right? Here's the move again. He just did it again. Control, pendulum, boom, into this rear hand, bah. But the only time he practices that hook right there is off of that big shift there, right? That big pendulum right there. And again, this is not how you want to be practicing that move. We can see that quite definitively. We saw him use this move here, boom, 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 right? But quite definitively that this move was actively bad for him in his fight. This pattern cost him punches, right? And by setting that move up, rather than just traditional like tap, tap, taps, there you go, combinations, right? Again, the most valuable thing that Lomachenko does in his entire routine is his striking. Tap, 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 pop, 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 right? No head movement at all. Again, he's not focusing on any of the mechanics. He's just punch, 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 right? Again, he's working on the speed. He's not working on any of the head movement. A little bit of slipping right there, right? Tiny, tiny bit of practice there. But again, breaking a lot of the rules, breaking a lot of the track rules, right? And again, over and over and over again. Now, only beginners hit standing heavy bag, so look at him get this bag going a little bit. It's not the greatest routine. It's not the fastest, but I want you guys to think about that stuff because the best thing that he did in any of his fights was that really, really short feint, right? And then his combination punching. So much of everything else that he's practicing, right? And we're going to go ahead and move on to the shadow boxing here. But so much of everything that he winds up practicing winds up being bad. It winds up being a waste of time, right? Now, when we see him moving around, right? A little bit of combination punching, right? The flurries are the most important thing that he practices, right? Is this how he crosses the line when he's in front of his opponent? No. He slips, right? He's not rolling, right? So let's look at for how often he actually uses that slip move, like the one that he uses in his fight, in his shadow boxing. Now, again, the reason that that's important is because if he never visualizes what it's like to be slipping in the front foot, this is the reason why when he's slipping to the front foot, he doesn't have any game there. He doesn't work out of that position at all, right? These moves here, right? When he's making these moves here, boom, 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 flurries, right? Tap, tap, tap. He can do those fast, pull, boom, rear hand. But he has almost no work with the lead hand once he makes it to the lead foot. Once he crosses the line, he makes it to the right side of the line. All he's doing, that's the best thing, flurry, right? And it's no head movement. It's just pat, 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 right? Now, again, this was the move in his shadow boxing, right? Boom, boom, pendulum, boom. That's the move that's also costing him because there's so many moves in his shadow boxing that he's missing, right? In the patterns, in the representation of what's going on. And again, the mechanics here. The fact that he's not crossing the line with any of his rear hands, he's not actually boxing a guy. he's just working on his flurries, right? Tap, right? It's all basically striking. He's not actually boxing here. This is not, what he's working on is not actually any of the fighting stuff. It's just the flurry style stuff. Okay? Now, this is all really important because if you guys are boxing fans and you're trying to be a better fighter, okay, number one, if you need a coach to teach you all the best drills to practice to turn you into a good fighter, a great fighter, check out my Discord, okay? There's over 100 drills already on there to teach you what patterns you should be practicing. Then there's, over 70 people in the Discord who will tell you what patterns not to practice when you do them, when you send them in. Okay, the way that it works, you record yourself doing a 3-minute version of the drill. The drills are all like 20 seconds or 10 seconds of my student performing the drills. And then you send in your 3-minute version, practice the patterns that include footwork. It's not just striking. It's all the kind of stuff all put together. And then people critique it. I critique it. I hope you get better, teach you how to do the pattern better, teach you how to become a better athlete, teach you how to do this stuff, how do you understand combat. Again, Lomachenko, the most important thing that he's practicing here is just the speed, his ability to keep those beats and keep those flurries going, right? We saw that the footwork was actively bad. His movement was actively bad. And it was basically just the pace and rhythm at which he could keep to fight. Now, again, that means that if you can learn to move your body at that pace and that rhythm, and you can learn to do better, you can have a better career than Lomachenko. That's exactly what that means. Okay? And again, I'm the first coach in history to be able to crack all of punching power. There's a fucking bum named the Punch Doctor who's trying to steal my shit and trying to teach my stuff and act like he's an expert at watching film. But he's a fucking hack. He's never going to teach anybody how to do anything. He's a fat slob. Okay, but I'm the first coach in history to be able to crack all of punching power. I'm the coach that's been teaching the world about how weight transitions work. Okay, I'm the one that made people realize that, you have to move your head off the line when you punch, right? MMA people all say get your head offline or whatever. That's a theory that came from my channel. Okay, I'm the one that taught the world that. So if you want to learn how all this stuff works and you want to learn from the guy who taught the world how it did, so that there's no fake shit. You don't wind up doing anything that's going to cost you any punches. You wind up training the correct way to learn to master all the correct movements. Check out my Discord. It's $20 to sign up, $20 a month, or you could do $400 for a year of private coaching. Okay, or you can do a year of coaching. Instead, if you don't want to pay the $20, you want to pay, I think it's $160 for the year, right? Which is an $80 discount, be $240. All the film studies that I do are on the Discord. They're on the Patreon as well. The Patreon is different. The Patreon is a 7-day free trial, but has most of the film studies that I do, that I post, most days of the week. But there's a lot of Fouts Boxing content on there. And again, we're going to be watching all of the Lomachenko fights. But again, anyway, this film study, it's really important to look at the way that Lomachenko goes about his routine. You can see that there's a lot of fat. There's a lot of stuff in there that we can see adds value in the way that he's moving, the rhythm, the pace, and all that stuff. But we can also see that there's a lot of fat in there. There's a lot of stuff that he's practicing that doesn't make any sense, that you actively want to remove so you can become a better fighter. And again, my drills encapsulate that. They're going to teach you what to do, what not to do, how to do it, the best way to do it with the best body mechanics. And as the coach, the first coach in history, I have this drill on my channel. I call it my 2-foot punching drill, where you're going to go down, up with your punching. I call it 2-foot punching. All my drills work with the exact way that punching power works. So all the things that you're going to be doing are going to help you generate power and generate momentum. And again, if you want to learn all by yourself, you want the system, it's like 40 hours of coaching in the weaponizing your 1-inch punch. Or say you just want punching power. There's a punching power drill for $149.99. It's not a punching power drill, but it's a whole series of techniques and things to focus on during your power punching to improve your punching power, to make it so that you can become your best striker. And guaranteed to improve your punching power, but also, and very detailed look at it, but also improve your punching power, but not just that, but teach you how to throw your best punch and then make it better, okay, over time. It takes a long time. Or you can just learn all that stuff in the Discord if you want. I've got a bunch of amateurs. I've got a few pros in there. And yeah, It's a lot of content. It's a lot of stuff to go through, a lot of people to meet, and you'll be able to meet people in the country or in around the world um, that are also learning Fouts boxing theory and are interested. And again, I'm the OG. I'm the original. I'm the guy that proved my theories on fighting. Okay, I'm the one that proved them. Everyone else is just using stuff that I proved in their channels. All those guys like Hybrid Warrior, by the way, the Punch Doctor, these guys are part of my Discord. These guys are in there regurgitating the stuff that I'm teaching to other people to try to build an audience. That's how valuable my Discord is that these guys are trying to build entire YouTube channels on the stuff that I'm teaching. Like that Hybrid Warrior clown, when you see that guy pendulum step or transition his weight, he's a fraud. He's a fake ass piece of shit trying to steal my knowledge and trying to steal because he thinks he deserves it. Yeah? Well, you know what, son? Eventually, we're probably going to wind up in the same room. And I'm going to make you look like such a fucking little bitch. It's going to be so embarrassing. And all you guys had to do was fucking call me out, give me a shout out for my knowledge, right? Not just to fucking steal from me and try to embarrass me. But anyway, one day, everyone's going to see that, I'm the fucking guy. Okay? But then once you guys see that I'm the fucking guy and I'm the best, it's going to be too late. Okay? Anyway, get in while you can. See ya.